Let's see, as I said, it's been about a year since we've had our last Community History Day dialogue. And so we thought this would be a good way to start. We're having people coming into the building, as David said. And things that I've noticed that people are asking about is about scanning. They are very interested in scanning. So we had a presentation that we had through the NEDCC that we asked people to watch. And I'm hoping most of you did. I don't know if you could show by hands, if you could raise your hand if you were able to watch that. Good. Oh, good. Well, here, yeah, and I'm hoping online too. I see a bunch of people raising their hands, so that's good. And those are kind of where the dialogue is coming from. I'm going to ask some questions. I want other people to ask questions, try to find out. I know a lot of people are very interested in the technical aspects of it and so I have people kind of filtered here to help. One is I have Suzanne Stasiulaitis from the State Archives who's here to talk about scanners. For when we had the new building, we purchased a lot of scanners, so I kind of see that she's got expertise in that. And I'm sure there's a lot of other people that are interested and know about scanners too, that would be able to do it. There are probably some people that have actually done scanning days, and one of them that we asked is Barb Zabrowski, who's in our audience today. And she had, when I've talked to her, she has some very helpful hints, and I've kind of peppered her in there too to help people come up with ideas and think about different things that she's found that's been helpful. And then lastly, but not lastly, or whatever, I have Nicole Joniak here from the hosting solution of the Library Consulting in Philadelphia, and they run the Power Library for the State Library. And she is going to do a small presentation about what she can offer for a scanning day, and is helping people with scanning. And so we're going to start out first with her presentation, and then afterwards we will start the dialogue. Go ahead, Jeff.
Great. Thanks so much, Cindy, and thanks for including me in this event. I love the idea of holding a community scanning event, and I hope PA Photos and Documents and our Scan PA program can help make it happen. So today I'll be talking about how you can share historical and cultural collections via PA Photos and Documents, also known as PAPD, which is a service we provide under the Power Library umbrella. We'll also discuss the ability of borrowing the Scan PA digitization equipment, which is available via the Scan PA program. And as Cindy mentioned, my name is Nicole Joniak, and I'm the Digital Collections Specialist at Hosting Solutions and Library Consulting, also known as HSLC. HSLC administers Power Library for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and I manage PAPD for Power Library. Here's an outline for today's presentation. To start, we'll discuss how you can contribute content to PAPD. Then I'll share more information on the Scan PA digitization equipment that is available to be borrowed through the Scan PA program. And I did want to mention all the images in this presentation come from PAPD, so that will hopefully give you a sense of the variety of content that PAPD showcases. PAPD is one of the 4 core services of Power Library. If your institution is already a Power Library participant, it's a sunk cost since you already pay for your Power Library participant fee. If you aren't a Power Library participant, there are 2 ways you can participate. One is incorporated historical and cultural entities can join on their own with a $325 annual fee, which includes tech support and guidance from HSLC to ensure your success in contributing to PAPD. If any of those criteria are a barrier, there is another means of participation by partnering with an existing contributor, which we can help coordinate for you. And if you have any specific questions about joining, please be sure to see me afterwards or grab my email address for those of you online. And that will be at the end of the presentation, and so we can talk further. So what exactly is PAPD? PAPD is a freely accessible online repository of digitized and born digital special collections materials from cultural heritage organizations from across the state that chronicle the history, culture, and people of the Commonwealth. PAPD is paid for through funds provided by the Pennsylvania Department of Education, the Office of Commonwealth Libraries, the Library Services and Technology Act grants, and your Power Library technology support fees. So who exactly contributes to PAPD? Cultural heritage organizations from across Pennsylvania contribute to PAPD, including K through 12 schools, colleges and universities, historical societies, public libraries, and special collections libraries. This slide illustrates logos of nearly all of our contributing institutions, which consists of over 100 contributors from nearly all Pennsylvania counties. What does PAPD provide? Access to Islandora, which is the system that PAPD utilizes, copies of the data for the institution, and we do recommend keeping copies locally since it's not meant to be a preservation solution. 24/7 free access to your materials by anyone around the world via the web, a homepage for each collection, keyword searching of one or more collections, and discovery of collections across the United States and beyond in the Digital Public Library of America, also known as DPLA. And the nice thing about placing content in the DPLA is the DPLA links back to PAPD, therefore driving traffic to your content. So what are the participating institutions' responsibilities? You'll want to determine the collections manager for PAPD, which is essentially the point person and the person who handles the bulk of the work. You'll want to digitize, add, and maintain high quality materials and describe your content for discoverability. So what exactly can I contribute, or can you contribute? Photographs. So here's a lovely photograph of two ladies and their dog in front of a house. And this is dated 1900 and comes from the Myersdale Public Library. Postcards. This is a postcard of Monaca, PA from the Old Economy Village and is dated 1928. Works of art. This is one of my favorite images in the collection. It's so cute. It's titled Cat Friend, Mouse Friend, and it comes from the Mary Hamilton Holiday Card Collection, which is located at the Clarion Free Library and is dated the year 2000. Diaries. This diary was recently contributed by the Chester County History Center and documents negotiations between Native American tribes in the 18th century by the author Walter Finney. Posters. Our Scan PA overhead book scanner can digitize up to just under 19 inches by 14 inches. And this is a poster advertising a rally in support of saving the Dorothy 6 blast furnace, which was located in the Pittsburgh area, from being shut down, with the hopes of saving the jobs of those working the blast furnace and subsequently the families and communities attached to those jobs. It's a very powerful message. This comes from the Battle of Homestead Foundation and is dated 1985. Here is an example of a collection of letters written by P. Benner Wilson, who was an officer during the Civil War and chronicled his time on the battlefield. This collection comes from the Center County Library and Historical Museum. Yearbooks are really popular for genealogy, and this is a page from the Reading High School yearbook dated 2006. And the nice thing about our system is textual content is made searchable thanks to optical character recognition, also known as OCR. And this comes from the Reading Public Library. Audio files, which often include oral histories. This is an interview with Darlene Marcus and Veery Thomas, who were tenders of Glenwood Green Acres, which is a community garden located in North Philadelphia. This comes from the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society and is dated 2017. Videos. So we unfortunately can't store video due to storage limitations, but we can link out to videos found on your website, YouTube, Vimeo, or whatever service you might use. And essentially what we do is we can create a thumbnail screenshot from the video and place that as the image for the record. And then within the description of the record will be a link to the video location. And so this particular video is the groundbreaking for Long Library in 1930 from the Lycoming College archives. In terms of the PAPD scope, the screenshot on the slide includes the first sentence from the PAPD application's description sentence. It reads, PAPD is a digital collections repository for unique and special collections about Pennsylvania. So you may want to ask yourself the following questions about the material you're considering for PAPD. Does the item have cultural or historical significance to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania? Or is there some kind of a tie-in with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania? So one example, we had a library with a patron who wanted to digitize pictures of themselves in the Vietnam War. And since the patron was a Pennsylvania resident, we said, absolutely, we'd love to have these materials in PAPD. And definitely, if you come across any instances that you'd like to talk about, we can discuss that. I'm happy to brainstorm and think of ways how we can tie into Pennsylvania. We're actively seeking diverse content, which we provide access to via PAPD's landing page with collections listed by subject. We want to be sure PAPD is representing all Pennsylvanians. Here are some of the current diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, also known as DEIB, subjects on the portal. We have African American history, disability history, immigrant experience, law and criminal justice, LGBTQIA+ history, Native American history, as well as women's history. And we're actively seeking DEIB content for the following categories. We unfortunately don't have anything in Asian American and Pacific Islander history. We have one collection in Latin American history and LGBTQIA+ history. So we absolutely want to prioritize these topics. And please do let me know if you have any content that you could contribute to so we could add them to these subjects. So as I mentioned, I'm happy to report HSLC has equipment you can freely borrow through our Scan PA program. If you have your own equipment, you can also use that as well. Our flatbed scanner can scan up to 600 PPI with a maximum scanning size of roughly 11.6 by just over 16 inches. The lid easily detaches, giving you the ability to scan bound materials that can lay flat. And so the flatbed scanner is great for digitizing photographs and other flat materials that can fit on the scanning bed. Our overhead book scanner can digitize up to just under 19 inches by 14 inches with a thickness up to 2 inches. It can be used to digitize oversized materials as well as bound materials that are too fragile to be scanned on a flatbed scanner. I selected the flatbed scanner and overhead scanner as possible equipment to use for a community scanning event. We do have other equipment available, such as microfilm scanners and audio-video digitization equipment. So please do feel free to reach out if you're interested in borrowing any equipment, or if you're not sure how to digitize something, I might be able to help. We now have all the training you'll need for PAPD in a self-paced virtual environment that you can do when it's a good time for you. It consists of a little over 2 hours of training videos, which you can receive continuing education credits for completing. I'm also available anytime to do any needed hands-on training, which we can do virtually, or we can coordinate a time to visit your institution. All right, so I sense you're all raring to go. If you're interested in learning more about joining PAPD, please feel free to reach out to me. For those in person, I have folders with my business card and brochures on the table in the back. And for those who are joining us remotely, we will be sharing my PowerPoint slides. And I'm happy to speak with you about the kinds of content you have that might be eligible for consideration. If you already have ideas of what you'd like to contribute, the first step will be to fill out the PAPD pre-application survey, which is located on our website via the QR code on the slide or the URL. And please do be sure to reach out to me if you do end up hosting a community scanning day so we can explore the possibility of getting involved. We can also assist with publicity and provide advice as needed. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nicole. Why don't we take questions directly towards your presentation now?
Okay.
If anybody has a question, actually right now, if you could put it in chat, allow people to speak if they want.
Nice to see somebody here commented that they have and continue to work with Nicole scanning and uploading yearbooks from their service area. And it's a compliment that you're great to work with.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
That's a nice thing to hear.
Very sweet.
You see somebody has their hand up here, it looks like. Not sure if that was just from the beginning still.
I think so.
But if anybody has a question, feel free to chime in. I see a hand up here in the room.
I have a question. You mentioned scanning yearbooks. And do you do them page by page?
I defer to the scanning experts in the room here.
The reason I ask is because at home I have an overhead, it's a large format scanner,
Okay.
and I had to do, I did old newspapers, school newspapers, two-sided, a 4-page newsletter. So I had to do one side at a time.
Yes.
And it scanned nice, and even where the crease was, it knocked that out pretty nice. My question is, how do I back that up? I have it on my laptop now.
Mm-hmm.
How do I back that up? And my next question is, well, I guess it's going to be time consuming, but I have a lot of football programs that I want to scan. I have over 400, and I want to scan every page of each one, which is going to take a lot of memory. And that was my next question. How much memory do I need?
You want to open that up to everybody because that's not necessarily specific to your program.
Yeah, it seems like, you know, if you're scanning all that, it is time consuming, I think, scanning, you know, and that's just part of the game. But I know if you have a scanner that has different options, you can kind of survey those options, whether you do 300 DPI or 200 DPI if your space is concerned. And so you'll really evaluate those things. And from my experience, you can always get like an external hard drive, and it frees up your memory on your computer, so things can go a little faster. But yeah, external hard drives, you know, can be a little costly. But I don't know if anybody else has had experience.
Do you think, can I make a comment here? Do you think that it would be time consuming because of the fact that he has over 400 of these, you know, one particular thing? And when you have to document each and every one of them as you're doing them?
Yeah, you can keep tracks with data, you know, track data in a spreadsheet. That comes in helpful. As Nicole was saying, you know, when you want to upload them for preservation purposes at a later date, or just to kind of keep an inventory of what you have, what you're scanning, so that you can always refer back and say, oh, you know, I wanted, you know, such and such booklet, you know, and just for easy reference. And also, you know, the file naming will be descriptive, so.
I think I did it right.
Count that as a win.
Yeah.
Every time I scanned, I would save. Um, and the name of the newspaper was Steel Points. And so I would give it an SP and then the date and then page 1, page 2, page 3, 4.
Absolutely.
And I did it that way.
Okay. Some of the other questions we have is, does it cost to upload materials or is it free in some instances?
No, so it's just the 325 yearly rate and that covers everything. And basically when when you're all ready to go, you've gone through the training, you've filled out the usage agreement, your first step is to create a new collection. And that would be where you would share approximately how many materials are within the collection. I don't want to say it's unlimited, you know, you can upload billions of images. So within reason, it's absolutely free. And I don't foresee we haven't had any instances where we've had to turn anybody away. Yeah, so that's basically the straight fee. And then if you are interested in partnering with an existing participant, so your local library may already be a Power Library participant, that's a way of getting around those costs. So there's definitely options. And since this is provided by the Office of Commonwealth Libraries through the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, they really want to remove all barriers of participation and make it as easy as possible and as economical as possible, so.
We also have how much notice is required for equipment loans and how long can you check it out for? And somebody asked about the cost too.
Okay, so in terms of notice, we have a waiting list. At this time right now, we do have a plethora of overhead scanners and we do have a few flatbed scanners. So in the spring is when we tend to get equipment back and reprocess it out into the community. And what's the other question? It was
the cost, how long they can hold on to the equipment
oh, how long? Yeah.
and how much notice, yeah.
Okay. And in terms of how long you hold on to it, if you're using it, you can continue to use it. So we have some institutions, we distributed equipment in 2016 and they're still using it. So we're thrilled. So that's the goal, is that you are, you know, contributing on a yearly basis. And if there's a time when you find it's getting dusty in the corner and you're not using it, that would be when we would ask that you return it to us. So.
I'm just going to go through a few more of these. How much does it cost? Oh, how long to get a hold of the microfilm scanners?
Yeah, microfilm scanner, we have a fairly substantial waiting list, maybe about 9 or 10 institutions on it right now. All of the scanners are out in the community. We have 6 scanners at this time. And once again, every spring is when we reach out to organizations to confirm that they're still using the equipment. But I would say if you're interested, please do fill out the scanner request form. And that way you'll end up in the queue. And once a scanner is available, we'll be in touch. So.
All right.
So you have a question?
So the scanning equipment through Scan PA, is that available to the member institutions or anybody?
It is, so the intention of the equipment is to digitize materials and add them to PA
Okay.
photos and documents. And so some people may be using them for other purposes as well, but the main intention is to be contributing to the service. So that is part of the application process. Is the first step would be filling out the scanner request form. And then we would talk about having you join in whatever way that
Okay.
you end up joining.
So if you, like, for instance, wanted to borrow a couple of scanners for a community scan day, the expectation would be then to put it onto the PA photos and documents, like the
Yes.
materials that you get. Okay.
Yeah, and so I included that slide about the scope, just so people realize, like, people may have family members who lived abroad and maybe the family member doesn't live in Pennsylvania. So that might be where it might be a little bit, you know, a a gray area in terms of what we would contribute to PA photos and documents, but I'd be happy to talk to you one-on-one to talk about, how we can make some kind of tie into Pennsylvania. So.
Thank
Okay. Let's move on to some of the other topics regarding starting a scanning day. So one of the things that they talked about is, what are your goals? So if you had and again, I think everybody has their mic so they can open it up. If they have any comments or questions, we could talk about that. So that would be one of my questions is, you're part of a community. What would be your goal of having a scanning day? Just off the top, you're thinking about, obviously you're here. So what would be your goal for helping that community or?
Helping people preserve historical legacy
Okay,
documents
okay,
before they get lost or, you know what I mean,
right,
destroyed, or, a lot of times somebody dies in a family and, a lot of the stuff that children or whoever don't realize the importance of some of these documents and, they get discarded or,
okay.
would that be something that would?
Yeah, and it's, the thing is that sometimes they're very broad too. I mean, we're the state archives. If we had a scanning day, who would we target? I mean, we actually target the whole state, we target state government, since that's mostly what we collect, or, that's what you need to think of, because either it's going to be overly broad or it could be very narrow too. So, again, if anybody wants to chime in, I was hoping that Barb might talk about one of the things that she found. Barb, I think you're there. Is that focusing on a certain type of material, like I think you mentioned like wedding pictures, something like that, or something, around the community's wedding practices, or, could be your videotapes or what have you. That might be something. And again, are you guys able to unmute? I'm hoping you can. Doesn't say. Okay, just everybody's shy. Doesn't surprise
Well,
me.
while you're doing that, can I ask a question?
Yeah,
Okay, something that Nicole had brought up, and that's about the videotaping and, using a thumbnail.
Oh, the image thumbnail?
Yeah, okay. Because you said it would be too large. What is too large? Is it something that is videoed for an hour and a half? As far as uploading it to the system, is it, what's the stop point for all this?
Yeah, so videos in general, we're not uploading into PA photos and documents at this time, because even, I feel like we just kind of had a blanket statement of just no videos, period, regardless of the size, just to make it easy. But certainly places like YouTube or even your own website, they potentially could accommodate videos. And that way we could create a screenshot of the video as like the image for the record. And that would serve as sort of a way of discovery, a way of people being able to discover your video instead of being kind of buried on YouTube.
Well, the reason why I'm asking, I found that within our community, we had some people that were actually in the silent films,
Oh, wow.
and they're buried within our area
Oh, very
also.
cool.
And I would love to make sure that that type of history is not lost.
Yeah.
Because a
that's
lot of
great
people don't
idea.
realize, especially you younger folks, don't know what the silent film is,
Right.
And to see that piece of history before it became, audio and, good video, will be lost. And I can think of this one woman who was buried there, and she went to school that I had tried to do some history on it and got a monument done for. She went to that school and she graduated from that situation of school for the colored children, the hygienic school for colored children. And I would love to have that whole packet of information for her,
Yeah.
where she's located at and what the silent film says she was in.
Yeah.
Not obviously in our area, but in New York or California or whatever, with some really famous people. So how do I pull all that together? Because it is the Stilton Historical Society information that we need to
Yeah.
grasp.
And it may already be digitized and online. You may try searching for it. And if so, that would be a way you could link out to it.
But I need to pull that over from that particular site to the library site, or just hold on to it within our own?
So you could even just link out to it. So just have the link of the video where it appears on YouTube, if it's on YouTube,
Mhm.
and then you could create a record about that video in PA photos and documents.
Okay.
So, and I did want to respond to your earlier question, because I feel like I probably didn't quite articulate this well. So I don't want to make people feel that every single image that you do at the community scanning day has to go into PAPD. I'd say as long as you upload a few, and maybe everyone isn't going to want their image online, and that's fine, but I just wanted to add to that, just to clarify.
Barb, do you want to say something?
Yes, thank you. So when we got our NEH grant, we did public scanning days, and I spread them out all over the county so that, you know, people would have an opportunity. So some other public libraries actually hosted us, and we took our equipment and set up. I have to be honest with you, very low turnout. It was a very poor response. So what we did was we examined why, and we had heavy advertising, a lot of stuff in the newspaper. We put posters in all the public libraries. We did a lot. What we found was really helpful, though, is when we focused on specific topics of what we were looking for. So for instance, in a June, we wanted wedding pictures. Please bring us your wedding pictures. You know, so because, you know, June brides, a lot of people got married in June. We tried to give the public focus on what kinds of items we wanted them to bring in, because we found out from the few people who did attend our public scanning days, they didn't know what they should bring. So we tried to help them by having them focus around a theme. And I actually had somebody once tell me, well, I don't know why you want to see pictures of my wedding from the 70s. You're not going to know anybody in it. And I said, but the value on that is very distinctive hairstyles, dress styles. The bridesmaids wore something unique. What kind of flowers did you carry? I said, people look at historic photographs for a whole bunch of different reasons, not necessarily because we can identify people in them. And we also had people, to Nicole's point, show up and wanted their stuff digitized, but they had no interest in having it posted anywhere. And we still offer that service at the library today. In fact, we are digitizing home videos right now of someone who brought them in, wants to give them to her children, but she has no interest in having those posted anywhere publicly. So we do offer that service as well. But for the public scanning days, you might want to start to think about particular topics. If you have events in your community, heritage days, barbecues, picnics, show up at those and advertise. And again, come up with a theme of what you want. In the fall, if you want to do high school football games, bring all your stuff from the local high school that recently closed. We're looking for pictures from a particular church that closed. You know, give the public something specific to go through all of their pictures and find. That will be a better successful event for you.
Thank you. Yeah, good advice.
It's a great thought, Barb, sorry. Just thinking, you know, sometimes I think people might get in their own way, right? To your point, Barb, you know, just what you said, we have all this stuff, where do we start? We're not gonna start it all because we're overwhelmed. So yeah, having that specific focus, I think would be very helpful. So that's great advice. Thank you.
I think we would have to have a lot of events. If we focus, you know, it's great to focus like that, but I mean, you know, if we focus on a particular church, particular organization, we're gonna have a lot of meetings. And to what you were talking about, you found the link to these silent films of this person. You can add that to the website and just add the link.
Yeah.
You know, the URL, and they can click on that.
Cindy?
Another question that talk about is logistics. How and where are you going to hold it? I mean, some of you might not have an actual facility. Would you try to get in touch with, I don't know, the local American Legion if they have a hall, or the state archives, or some other places? And I was wondering, like even Barbara, if anybody else has actually had a scanning day, or thinking of it, where are you gonna hold it? At the public library? I mean, I noticed that there's a lot of public libraries that are here, so are they planning on having it in their building, or do they think it'll be more successful at a different building? So that's just one of the questions I have now. Where would people hold it? Anybody? Let's see, I'm looking at questions. Also volunteers, I had a couple of questions on how many volunteers do you need for something like this? So,
Slightly related to that, how do you gauge if you're doing this for the first time? How do you know how many volunteers you'll need? Like how do you know how many scanners you'll need, or how do you know how many people to expect? It seems like it would be tough to require registration in advance for something like that. It seems like you get more people probably if you just let people come, but how do you anticipate, how many resources you'll need?
The recording said that there was like, I can't remember exactly, but if we go back to the recording that I watched it, they had one at intake. So, recording the metadata, recording on a form and, meet and greet. And they had one doing the actual scanning, and I think they had one for an activity at the end.
Yeah.
yeah.
But if you like have 200 people lined up, one scanner doesn't seem like it would be enough. Like maybe you'd have 2 or 3 scanning stations, but it's just hard to like think. If you've never done an event like this, how do you know what to expect in terms of turnout?
Could you put a limit on it?
Limit on
Yeah.
the number of
Registration
items.
or limit, yeah.
Yeah.
And it could be, well, I hope it would be 200 people, but
Yeah.
it could be like, you never know.
Yeah.
As Barb said, the first time they tried it, it wasn't, there weren't as many people, so.
I think if you
Let me
ran-
offer let me offer a comment on handling crowds. So, and I tell this all the time to people, scanning is the easy part. It's the metadata piece that's the tough part. So even if you have people you've got a big crowd, you've got a lot of people, scanning, sometimes scanners aren't super fast, you can only scan things at a certain speed. Get those people who are waiting to start to create the metadata for you. You need a really good form where they can tell you the date, the place, the time, who's in the photograph, who's in, where was it taken, as much information as they can give you, because that's what you're going to need to use to create the metadata upload into PA photos and docs. That's what takes the time. And that gives them something to do while they're waiting for the scanner. You also have to have them sign release forms. I saw a question in there about privacy. You have to have them sign off that they realize this is going to eventually be ingested into the Digital Public Library of America. So everyone in the US is going to see this. So they need to sign off waivers as well. And I'm sure Nicole has forms that she can share with you to give those permissions. So that's also important. The other thing too, if somebody brings a big collection of things, I've actually asked people to make an appointment and come back to the college outside of the public event to tell them, yes, we'll be more than happy to scan all this. But, like if somebody brings a videotape, if it takes 8 hours to play, it takes 8 hours to copy. They're going to have to leave things with you too and entrust you to scan them and return them. And if they can't come back, or they, sometimes you just have to tell people, I'm really sorry, we just can't get to your item at this time. If you'd like to come back, we can handle it, but this is going to take a lot of time to do.
Good advice, Barb. Thank you.
Do you have the equipment
Yeah.
for doing exactly what she just said as far as taking the videotape and moving it over?
Yes, the equipment we have is sort of like a dongle, and it attaches to your computer, and you need to have a VCR. And so hopefully you have one. If not, sometimes local libraries collect those kinds of things. But yeah, so we just have like a dongle that can be used to digitize video that way.
We, Barb was just mentioning about the metadata, and so we put on a form from the video that talk, you know, it's a sample form of what you can use to get the metadata. There's also another guide from OCLC on rights and, because we're talking about PII and rights and who has them. So it's just a plain language form that they have, and I think I'm gonna get, Josh, we're trying to get it into the chat so that you have a copy of that also. So. And that's all important because some people aren't going to want to have their material out there, or their, you know, some of the times they're not, since they're not giving you the material, they're keeping it, which is part of why we want preservation. You can still make it to the public, but they want to keep it private. And so there's a balance there, and you need to be able to work with that balance on how to keep privacy, but make it available to the public. I'm just looking at all my different notes that I have. I'm trying to see what else other questions. Oh, go ahead.
Bertha Jackman, I see you've had your hand up for a little while. If you had a question and would like to unmute, please feel free to do so.
And also,
Hello,
Hi,
hi.
Bertha.
hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
We can.
Hi, Bertha.
Okay, hi, first of all, thank you very much for this information, as some of it's a little above my head. You know, I'm trying to follow along, but and for some reason I'm not able to write my question in the chat, which is why I raised my hand. But my question had to do with it was one of the questions about keeping record of what it is that you scan. Is there a template form or something, you know, that we can use so we don't have to try to make up everything that's, you know, try to reinvent the wheel? And so that's basically my question. Are there templates for maintaining records of everything that you scan?
Right. That was, actually, I don't know if you can show it, but that was something, the template is in the chat, which I don't know if you can get access to.
Well, I don't know, and that's another part of my question. Is all the information that's in the chat, would that be also available with the recording?
Yeah.
I
yeah,
mean, do we?
that.
Because I know you're
Yeah.
recording this, but will we have access to the recording? Will you be sending
Yes.
the recording out, and then will the chat, everything in the chat also be
Yeah,
listed?
at least the templates or the URLs will make that available to you. Yeah. So.
There's an example
That's-
from
yeah,
that link that's in the chat, Bertha. Like Cindy said, we will get that information to you after the session if you're unable to get to that directly from the chat. So look for that in your email.
Okay.
Form.
All right, thank you, because I'm trying to be sophisticated, but this is not working for me.
No, that's a great question though, Bertha, and I'm sure that's something that's not just on your mind as well. So thanks for asking.
Okay,
Bertha
thank
happens
you.
to be one of the board members.
Oh, okay, great. Incrimination there, right?
Right, Bertha?
I didn't hear that. What was that?
I was telling them, Bertha, that you're one of my board members, Pennsylvania Hallowed Grounds. This is Barbara Barksdale.
Oh, Barbara. Okay, I was listening to you. I'm watching you, and I said, that looks like it might be Barbara, but I wasn't sure. Yes, thank you so much. Because you know me, I'm going to be digging and digging. Thank you.
Thank you, Bertha. And I see also Bellwood Antis Public Library. I believe you had your hand up. If you'd like to unmute, please feel free to do so. And in the meantime, Bellwood, if you're working on that, I see we had another hand go up here. Like W. Vince McCall, what I'm showing on our
Yes, that's me. Can everybody hear me? I had a I think this is a great idea for our community, but I guess what I'm thinking is that we would have some resistance in people signing a release form. Does anybody have any experience as to what you would say to people to relieve their fears of this data ending up online or pictures or anything like that? So that's mainly my question.
Have you heard any experience with that, Nicole, or?
I would say if someone's not comfortable, that's okay. And it's completely understandable. And I definitely wouldn't want to pressure somebody who didn't feel comfortable signing off on something. And I guess the best way to explain it is just that the institution needs this in order to make it publicly available. And if you're not comfortable signing it, that's fine. You know, just we'll scan it and give you the digital file back or something like that.
You can also have a strong takedown policy,
Yeah,
just to
that's true.
reinforce any reservations.
Yes, we do have that in PA photos and documents. There is a takedown request form that people can sign. So if anyone's uncomfortable with an image, they can submit it to us.
Okay, thank you for the answer.
Thanks for the question. I think I saw another hand go up there while we were engaging.
Okay. Some other things to think about is how you're going to train volunteers. And also, actually, one of the things is how you're advertising it. How would you go ahead and advertise that you're having a scanning day? We have, let's say we had one at the State Archives. I'd probably ask them on social media to advertise it. We have a little magazine called Third in the Burg. We might do if we're doing something local. I'm looking at there's a group from the Hershey Community Archives. How would you guys go about doing something like that if you were trying to get the community?
I was thinking that the Derry Township newsletter, so like the township, Hershey is, you know, a small part of Derry Township, and Derry Township they have their newsletter that goes out to residents. And so that would be a really good way to get very broad reach of people living in the area. I also, because we're part of the MS Hershey Foundation, and we have a newsletter and like an email list and sending out that goes out to members of the Hershey Story Museum and the Hershey Gardens and Hershey Theater. And so getting a kind of broad reach there using other divisions of our organization to reach people.
We also have a farmer's market that takes place
Mhm.
downtown every Saturday in the summer. And I wonder if that wouldn't be a good place to like set up a little booth
Yeah.
to talk to people about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I was going to add, as I mentioned in my slides, definitely let me know as well, because we are very active in social media and we'd love to share information about your event. So keep us in mind as well.
Social media being another great way to advertise.
I think, like you were talking about earlier, how do you gauge
Interest.
how many people? Yeah. Set up a time frame and let people know that if we can't get to you today, we will have another event at such and such a time. And that way you'll get more of those people back, I think.
Yeah.
I wonder even if having people RSVP, and that would at least give you a sense of like, wow, we already had 20 people RSVP. We should
Yeah.
close this now or something.
Yeah.
Facebook events typically makes that pretty easy too, to gauge who's going, who's
Yeah.
interested, who's
That's
at
a great
least seen
point.
it. Yeah.
Well, when she was talking about the theme, my thought was, like Cynthia had mentioned about the churches or whatever, to advertise through the churches, advertise through your social clubs within your community. Send out, word of mouth gets out there. I just finished up the Cocoon Project, which is on display down here at the Susquehanna Art Museum. And that's what I did. I just reached out to almost every single facet that we had available. And we got a large amount of, feedback from people that showed up for it. Good. I have to go down there and check it out.
Yeah. And Leanne Yacovelli has her hand up. Would you like to ask your question or your comment?
I've seen the question come up a few times and people kind of dance around the answer. I don't know, maybe Barb Zabrowski might be able to answer this. But how many people can you help in an hour? How many scans can you plan to do in an hour? If you only have one scanner, one computer, and 3 people working it, you plus 2 volunteers, which is the typical for small rural public libraries and small historical sites. How many can you think you can get? How much do you think you can get through?
Do you want to tackle that one? Barb,
I'll
or
take a
maybe
crack at that. I'll
Oh,
take a
okay.
crack at that. So it takes approximately, with a good scanner, it takes at least a good minute to scan one picture. If you're talking an hour, you're talking 60 photos in an hour. So that would be a conservative estimate of how many you could get done. So if you had 10 people each bring in 6 photos, that's all you're going to get is 10 people done in a day. If they have bigger things or odd things, that take a little more time to process. If somebody shows up with a scrapbook, just thank them and turn them away, because everybody who's ever done a scrapbook knows scrapbooks take a long time to do. So you might want to say in your advertisement, photographs only, letters only, flat items. Again, help yourself by being very specific in what you want when you're advertising your event. Put a little bulleted list on your posters. We want photographs, letters, postcards, things that are flat that will scan quicker. You don't want videotapes, audio tapes, oral histories. You don't want any of that stuff at this particular event. You can handle that some other time. Right now, we just want flat things that are quick to scan.
And when you say that it's about a minute per picture, is that including cropping, saving, the whole 9 yards?
That is scanning and saving. So when it scans and you save it to the folder, that takes about a minute.
Another point that somebody brought up about being specific, Barb, and again, that's a great point, is just the possibility of, again, you're being specific, maybe address how many items or photographs somebody can bring in at a time. So as you're doing your advertisement, you can say, bring your 5 favorites or your 10 favorites or whatever the case might be. So again, great point. Thank you.
And then you also mentioned about metadata. That's another minute or 2.
They mentioned in the webinar that you could scan the form when you scan the item, so that you can then just put everything in a folder and make your record later.
I have a question. As far as what the committee's talking about, we have our standardized form and the RSVP, which should be great to respond to that. I don't know if it would be helpful or cumbersome if you would also put in a time frame. We'll be here at this venue from 12 to 5 or whatever it is, and then issue time slots. I don't know if that's getting a little too
I think that's a good idea, and I think that might
Yeah.
be reflective of the type of interest that you have. I mean, if you only have 5 people that end up responding, you might be a little bit more flexible that you can offer each one 20 minutes or something like that. So yeah, that's a good thought. Thank you.
Kind of similar to that, about how long do you typically schedule a community scanning day for? Is it a whole 8-hour block? Is it 2 hours? How do you schedule that?
It appears.
When I did my events, we did them for 3 hours.
3.
We had a 3-hour event.
Yeah, and how
And
many
that-
people did you?
Well, I told you, they weren't well attended initially. The most successful one we had 20 people show up over 3 hours.
And how many volunteers did you have?
We had 4 volunteers. 4
Okay.
volunteers. Mhm.
And 1 scanner?
No, we had 2 scanners. We had the larger 11 by 17 inch scanner, and we had a standard 8.5 by 14 inch. Something would do legal size scanner, the Epson, smaller Epson scanner, and then the larger 11 by 17 scanner. Just in case somebody brought a diploma in or something a little bigger, that we needed that larger scanner.
And just as far as incentivizing, I see in the chat, Stephen mentioned a neat idea might be to encourage people to bring in recipes, and you could swap the recipes back and forth, so it's digitize that. So that's something hadn't occurred to me, but
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, in the old country.
Yeah, absolutely. All kinds of different,
The old church cookbooks.
yeah, absolutely. Yes.
So, joining your organization, with donation of the scanners or whatever, or loaning of the scanners, like our organization, like, could we join with the Steelton Historical Society, or would it have to be an individual person from within that society?
It would be your organization. And actually Barbara and I have been talking about ideas of who she can partner with, and we're still working that out. But yeah, so it would be an organization, not an individual. And if it was an individual, I would recommend going to your public library or your historical society and having a conversation starting there. So.
Let's do it.
No, I mean, it was, I was confused on whether it was individual, like when we're talking about it, or organization, but thank you.
Yeah, and then in the context of a scanning day, there could be a collection that's created, let's say, wedding photos of, folks in Johnstown or something, and it would be whatever the entity is that's holding the scanning day that would upload those materials into that collection. So.
Can you ask Barbara if anybody came in with their stuff that they just wanted to leave it, they didn't want it back?
Well, that's a
Taking
great
donations.
Yes, I have had people bring me photographs and say, I don't want, you know what? If I had a nickel for everybody who told me my kids aren't interested in this and I don't know what to do with it, comment.
Yeah.
I get that a lot. I am a very small library. We can't retain a lot of things. So bigger items, I tell them, I'm really sorry. I just want the digital copy. I give them back their item. They need to figure out what to do with it. Photographs, which are smaller, don't take up a lot of space. If people donate photographs to me and they don't, they don't have anything else to do with them, I will keep those. But I have told people I just can't store this stuff. I'm sorry. And I've given them lists of other historical associations in the area, county historical societies, larger historical societies like the Heinz History Center here in Western Pennsylvania, that maybe they would take their donation, but I just can't house it here. So I have told people no.
Yeah, and I think that's partly why people do have scanning days, is because archives are full and they can't take everything. But especially with underrepresented groups, they want to be able to preserve that history. And so that would be one way to do it, is by scanning day and having it available and storing it either on Power Library or Flickr or some other things. And then, Nicole's got a great program there, but are there other places that people would store things, or they already have things? The video talked about Flickr. Are there other areas that they store things? Do they, a public library, do they have it on their servers? Or, I'm not sure where other people might consider storing things, maybe keeping it just local, so it's only for the local community.
I'll tell you what gets a lot of hits is we have stored a lot of our video content on a private, we made our own YouTube channel for Cambria Memory, and we put all of our video content there. It gets a lot of hits. And don't underestimate creating a Facebook page for your organization and cross-posting everywhere you can. All you need is a couple of people to share that link. You'd be surprised how much mileage you get out of those kinds of posts.
I see another message in the chat here. Jessica asks if the state archives would consider partnering with county historical societies to share items. For example, the state archives has a death record log for Juniata County on microfilm. Our historical society would love to have copies of something like that. We just this morning, Jessica, had a meeting about how the state archives can partner with smaller organizations and groups and communities in particular. So this is something that we're very much thinking about, and something that perhaps, specific examples, maybe we could talk offline about ways that we could work together and partner together. So please feel free to reach out after the meeting.
Yeah, and then actually specifically on microfilm, we have digitized a lot of our microfilm, and a lot of it's on Power Library. So some of it's already there. And then we are planning on doing more, and it would be available on our Digital Archives, Digital Record Center, DADRIC we're calling it. And then some of it's just available locally, because we do have rights in, it's like with the counties, often they won't let us broadcast it. So we have an agreement with them, so it's only available locally, but it is scanned microfilm. So that's another possibility too.
I hate to keep asking questions, but do you have a network of organizations that are volunteering? Like you have Hershey, right? Okay. And we're from Stilton, and I have a cemetery and whatever else. And is there any way possible, let's say if they're going to be doing a scanning day and we as volunteers in the same system would be alerted, can we come and help you and you can come help us if you're available? Do you have that set up already?
It's a great idea. And I would say through us sharing information about scanning events, that might be part of the publicity is we're seeking volunteers, and we'll be happy to help you with your scanning day if you help us. And
We need like a community scanning day discussion group or
Yeah.
something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, we should connect.
that's a great
cool.
idea.
That's a great, because that was one of the things, collaboration. Like if you don't have the bandwidth with the group that you're with, but you have a rich history you want to preserve, organizing with another group, it might be a very different type of group, but you could still work together and do things like that. And I shouldn't volunteer, but maybe that's something that the state archives can help, but I don't know. Yeah.
That may be the only way to get feedback, accurate feedback.
And as a PAPD participant, there is a listserv, so you could potentially reach out on a listserv and say, we're interested in doing this, and build interest and support that way as well.
Right.
So.
Or help them find, like this young lady, she's from Pittsburgh region, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm going to go out there and help her with the scanning, but maybe I know somebody in her area, like in Sharon, Pennsylvania, that likes to do that type of thing. Maybe I can connect you to them, and then they can come and help you.
Yes.
Or you help them,
Yeah.
So the brother and sisterhood of it all, right?
Yeah, I love that.
Covers much more than just a pretty face.
No. I wonder if, I'm sure a lot of people attending are members of MARAC, the Mid-Atlantic Regional Archives Conference. But there might be a way like through MARAC to like create a group or something like that. Or even like the MARAC Pennsylvania caucus maybe could help connect people. But that's also, if you're not an archives, you're probably not part of MARAC. So I don't know, I'm just brainstorming.
What's that organization?
Mid-Atlantic Regional Archives Conference. So it's like an archivist professional organization. Does your organization have an archives or are you, what is your organization?
The Stilton one is just starting over the last couple of years. They're still in organizing mode.
Yeah. Did I hear you say Hollowed Ground is your?
Pennsylvania Hallowed Grounds. We're in the business of taking care of cemeteries.
Cemeteries.
Yeah, across
Were
the
you on the
entire
news a
state.
few weeks ago or somebody from your group? There was someone from a group in Steelton that was taking care of a cemetery that was on
Yeah,
the news a
that's
couple.
me.
It was, yeah, I wonder if that was them.
I have the Midland Cemetery. We just got on the National Register of Historic Places. Yeah.
Congratulations.
What's that, John?
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we just partnered up with the Cleveland Cliffs and they're gonna provide us a repository for space to start storing all of
Your
our
archives.
archives.
Cool.
And I can put out a plug, because I will be there as a vendor. Merrick has their symposium in Center City, Philadelphia on April 8th. And if you Google Merrick, M-A-R-A-C, you should find information about that.
That's gonna be a tough one to fill. I mean, with the eclipse, the solar eclipse.
I know, yeah, it's bad timing. It ends at 3. So you can run out to the Fairmount Park where maybe you can see it. Not in the middle of Center City, though.
But if your archives is just starting, I think Merrick is a great organization because it's
Yeah.
less expensive. Like it's much less expensive than the National Archives Organization. And, you know, going to the conferences, you can learn so much about archives and, you know, the actual practice of what we do. So it might be worth looking into since you're just starting.
Yeah, definitely will be.
Maybe after this is over, we can have a little.
Yeah, I
Sidebar.
live in Middletown too, so I'm your
Okay.
neighbors in Steelton, but yeah.
Another comment we have in chat is from Holly Gushu, says, I would love to connect with folks. I have experience with scanning and digitizing and can share my knowledge. So I'm hoping, Holly, that you're willing to put out your email or something so that if people want to get in touch with you, you can do that. And then Josh put out what we've had Juniata as far as what we have digitized for the state archives. I guess one of the last things, of course, is money. It shouldn't be the last, but it's, how are people budgeting or are they doing donations or how, I mean, if you got a scanner, I mean, I think that's why everybody's very interested in what Nicole has to say because they're able to, but is anybody else, are they able to buy a scanner or how might they be able to budgeting? Also for storage too. So if you're an up and coming institution or group, how would you go about doing that?
I had seen like the Middletown, or is it the High Spire Middletown Historical Society? Like, as when you become a member, you get access to certain digital files and stuff. And so I think they keep their membership where they, you know, generate money from that. And I was just thinking about that as like the whole conversation was going on, where you could set it up like, because if you partnered with the state archive, like that would be something that probably, you know, you'd have to provide a free resource of some of that stuff. But I'm saying some of the other stuff that you have digitally archived as well, you know, like you'd have access. There has to be something that makes people want to, you know what I mean?
To incentivize, sure.
Incentivize them joining the society. If everything's just free for them to view and what have you, you know, there's not much motivation for, unless people are really passionate about that area or something, but.
Good consideration.
I was gonna say, absolutely check with your public libraries because sometimes they do have tool libraries and they may have equipment you can borrow for free. And in terms of storage, I often recommend even just Google Drive because you do get a pretty good amount of free storage and that can be at least sort of the starting point of where you save your files if it's, if you don't have enough space on your computer.
Yeah, I know that in the webinar
I keep going back to the webinar, but they said that slide scanners are really inexpensive and also 35 millimeter film cameras or scanners. Those can be really inexpensive too. So it's kind of like you could piecemeal, you know, oh, we're having negative scanning day or, you know, by format, you know, however your budget takes you, but.
Oh, I have a question. What equipment do you need to digitize VHS tapes? I am interested in that, but I've never done that.
Yeah, so we have, it's sort of like a dongle, and you would need a VCR. And I mentioned earlier, sometimes the public library may have one that's accessible. And basically you take the dongle cord and you plug it into the VCR and you plug it into your computer and that feeds it into the computer. Yeah, I think that's probably the most economical way. And if you're purchasing it outright, it's, I think, around $100 for the dongle.
Okay.
And we have them available to be borrowed, so through the ScanPA program as well for free, so.
Unfortunately, they're not making VCRs anymore, so
Yeah.
That's
I need
the
to find a
trick.
secondhand one.
And sometimes a thrift store has stuff like that, so.
We have a VCR player that actually converts the VCR to a DVD. Like, it's not like an archival, it's not like a specialized piece of equipment.
Yeah.
Someone had it at home and gave it to us. It was, so it has like the VCR player and the DVD player, but it also will convert.
Nice.
So I don't know if you could find some, like, it's really nice, like, to be able to do that with one machine, but I don't know if you'd be.
So
able
I
to-
wanted to run out and grab what Nicole's talking about. So it's called a video capture. This is what it looks like.
Oh,
So it has a USB connector on this end. It's got the RGB connectors on this end that go in the back of your video player. This is what hooks into your computer. The software is free to download. It's called Elgato, E-L-G-A-T-O. This is the most wonderful little thing in the world because it will hook to a beta player. It'll hook to a VHS player. And I have become a hoarder of videotape machines. So anytime someone says, oh, I got this old VCR, I take them. So I have like 6 of them in the back stacked up because, you know, one day one of them's going to die and I'm going to need it. But this is what it is. It's E-L-G-A-T-O, an Elgato, and this is what converts video to digital.
Nice.
Thank you, Barb.
And I think you can even get those on Amazon, can't you, Barb?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I was gonna say that might be an email for your constituency. I know my parents just recently got rid of their VHS. I was like, no, why'd you get rid of them? I told you I wanted them. But yeah, so
Yeah.
people do tend to have those things laying around.
Easter's coming up. I'll talk to my older relatives.
Exactly.
These are cheap. I think this was like $80 maybe on the high end, the Elgato to get the conversion, but it's wonderful.
Older movies too. Did you, just, somebody put that on the website, yeah. Oh, there's one that's, love all the tech recs. I also have a local public library to host a scanning event day in their digital lab. Oh, it's okay, at Carnegie Library, and they have their hardware listed on the website. Oh, that's nice. That's very nice. Right. I'm kind of thinking about wrapping up. Does anybody have anything else that they'd like to talk about? I think another thing, we were talking about budget and stuff, and the webinar mentioned just using phones to capture things. You have a good phone, you could do it that way. So you can do it inexpensively, save and preserve your history, so. Are there any other questions out online? Okay. Great. Well, thank you very much. And again, did you put some of the emails? You can contact any of us via email if you have any other questions later on. Or if you didn't get email of somebody that you want to contact,
we can get that to you.
That Holly, that,
Yep, she put hers on here, so I'll get that to you. Yep.
thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing you at another CHD. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much.
We just connected with Hack as well for interns to help build our YouTube and digital videography and all that stuff, and then also archives and digitizing stuff. So Hack is willing to work with different organizations with their interns